Welcome to Echoes of Time, a journey into the forgotten worlds and the secrets they left behind.
You know, there are some jobs we just assume have always been around. Doctors, teachers, lawyers. But have you ever really stopped to think about where they came from? Because some of them have the most surprising and honestly, the most incredible origin stories. Today, we're going to dive into the story of the very first lawyer.
So let's just start with the big question. Why do we even need lawyers? I mean, in a perfect world, shouldn't we be able to just speak for ourselves? The fact that this is a massive global profession suggests that, for some reason, we really can't.
Well, you won't find the answer in some modern textbook. Nope. To get to the bottom of it, we have to go way back, about 2,500 years ago, to the loud, crowded, and brilliant world of ancient Athens.
To really get this, we have to start inside an Athenian courtroom. And I need you to forget everything you think you know about law. This wasn't about evidence and objections. This was a court of speeches, where your performance, that was literally everything.
The difference between their courts and ours is just wild. Forget the quiet, serious proceedings we have today. Back then, a trial was a public show. It wasn't about who had the best case based on facts or law. It was all about who could give the best speech. The best performer won. End of story.
I mean, just picture it. We're talking about huge, open-air arenas, jammed with people who were there for the drama. These trials are way more like a high-stakes sports match than a legal proceeding. The judges, the jury, the crowd, everyone was just looking to be entertained and persuaded. So you can probably see the giant problem here, right? When your whole system is based on who's the best public speaker, what happens to everyone else? Well, this huge problem led to a pretty radical and technically illegal solution.
Just think about it for a second. What if you were a farmer? Or an introvert who hated the spotlight? Or a business owner who was great with numbers but froze in front of a crowd? You stood absolutely no chance. You could have all the facts in the world on your side, but in that arena, you were going to lose.
So this was the trap they were in. How could you possibly get a fair hearing if the whole system was stacked in favor of charismatic performers? People were losing their land, their businesses, everything, and there was nothing they could do about it. So they got creative. Desperate for any kind of fighting chance, regular folks started to secretly hire these skilled public speakers. At first, it was just to write them a killer speech, but pretty soon, that wasn't enough. They started paying these speakers to get up there and actually speak for them.
And this secret, illegal practice created a brand new demand for incredible speakers. And this is where our story gets really interesting, because the guy who rose to the top, the man who became the most sought-after speaker for hire, was the most unlikely hero you could ever imagine. His name was Demosthenes. He started out writing speeches and coaching people, but then he started representing them himself. And he wasn't just good, he was a magician. He was so persuasive that he had judges and juries hanging on his every word. He started winning cases that everyone thought were impossible. But Demosthenes, the guy people were illegally paying to be their voice, the man whose entire career was built on his flawless ability to speak, he had a secret, a devastating one. That's right, the greatest speaker in Athens, the man who is basically inventing a new profession from scratch, had a severe stutter.
So how on earth did he do it? Well, what comes next is one of the greatest stories of personal transformation in all of history. This is the story of a man who forged himself into something new through pure, unbelievable willpower. And listen, we're not talking about a few practice sessions here. Demosthenes went to extremes. He would fill his mouth with pebbles and try to speak clearly for hours to perfect his enunciation. He would stand on the beach and shout over the roar of the ocean waves just to build the power of his voice. He would literally run up mountains while reciting poetry to master his breath control. And get this, the most incredible part. He would shave half of his head so that he'd be too embarrassed to go out in public, forcing himself to stay inside and do nothing but practice.
And all that insane dedication, it paid off, big time. The man who started out with a stutter became so incredibly skilled that the great philosophers of his day, we're talking the smartest minds of the ancient world, they gave him the ultimate title, the perfect speaker.
So after transforming himself, Demosthenes' power just exploded. This voice that he had literally forged from nothing took him way beyond the courtroom. It eventually put him in a position to decide the fate of his entire nation.
He quickly became the most famous and successful advocate in all of Athens. And of course, that kind of success gets you noticed. He gained so much influence that he jumped into politics, where he became the #1 voice standing against the rising power of King Philip of Macedon. You know, the father of Alexander the Great.
So here's the real takeaway. The world's first lawyer wasn't created by some law or some government decree. The entire legal profession was born out of a basic human need, the need for a fair shot, for someone to be your voice when you can't find your own.
And his legacy is absolutely huge. To this day, the story of Demosthenes is still studied in universities all over the world. And not just in law schools. It's taught as a masterclass in public speaking, in communication, and in the incredible power of human perseverance.
And all of that leaves us with one final thought. Demosthenes saw a problem in his world and created a whole new profession out of sheer necessity. So it really makes you wonder, what modern profession is being born right now for that very same reason?
This was Echoes of Time. If you love powerful history stories, subscribe and continue the journey with us.